Hey friends, welcome back to the Diabesity Fix. I'm Dr. Yaz, and this podcast today, we're going to be going over how to stop the fluff and actually fix what's keeping you stuck. If you're new here, welcome. I'm a triple board certified endocrinologist, obesity specialist, diabetes expert, and let's be honest, professional myth buster. And today, we're going to go straight into one of the hottest questions I get asked every week, whether it's in clinic, online, or someone whispering to me at a baby shower like it's a secret. How can I lose 10 pounds in a month? Well, here's what you need to know. It is absolutely possible. No, it doesn't mean you're going to be eating plain grilled chicken and crying into, a thing of lettuce. But although you're not obsessing over every single calorie, right, like a human calculator, we're going to set expectations. This isn't some fairy tale fat loss story. This is about you learning how your metabolism works, how to reset it, and finally lose weight in a way your body actually responds to. So buckle in, because I'm not giving you hype. I'm going to give you an actual plan. And each week, I'm going to give you the next part of the plan so that by 4 weeks, you'll be close to 10 pounds down if you have excess body weight to lose, i.e. my diabesity warriors. So make sure you stay till the end so you have the full plan. And if you want to do the plan with a friend for accountability, like and share with them and comment. And that way you guys can check in together. I'll be seeing all the comments. All right, so I want to explain. I was dealing with the same thing you were, okay? I want to rewind because I didn't get into this field because I thought diabetes was interesting. I got into it because my uncle dropped from a diabetes-induced heart attack, and that was my wake-up call. And then came my second hit. I became a gestational diabetic, put on a ton of weight. And I followed the advice. I tracked every gram. And when the pregnancy ended, surprise, surprise, I was still a diabetic. And that's when I realized the system was broken. It teaches us to manage diabetes, but it doesn't teach us how to reverse it and lose the weight that comes with it. They treat it like more of a moral failing if you can't lose 10 pounds. Well, screw that. I've been there. I've done that. I've done restrictive diets, 5 a.m. cardio, the calorie apps. I weighed my chicken breast on a food scale like it was my job, and I didn't lose real weight. The weight stayed on until I stopped treating food like math and started treating it like chemistry. Once I understood how sleep, stress, blood sugar, insulin, and movement all interacted, the weight came off pretty effortlessly. And now that's exactly what I teach my clients, because losing 10 pounds in a month isn't eating less. It's really more about working with your body. Okay, so why eat less and move more is bullshit, right? Let me ask you something. Have you ever followed a calorie counting app to the letter only to gain weight at the end anyway? Maybe you ate 1,200 calories a day, worked out 5 times a week, and still couldn't zip your jeans. And that's because weight loss isn't about math. It's about hormones, and often restrictive diets like that lead to binge eating and really unhealthy behaviors that I definitely took part of, especially when you're suffering with insulin resistance. So insulin is a fat storage hormone. So every time you spike your blood sugar, whether it's from a bagel, oatmeal, juice, or a healthy smoothie, your body will release insulin. And when the insulin level is too high, it's very difficult to burn fat. So the point is, if you suffer from insulin resistance, right, you need to take care of the sugar first or the weight doesn't come off. And if you can manage the sugar while you're doing this, your energy will come back, your cravings will calm down, and you'll feel a little more human again while you're doing this process, okay? So before we dive into the 4-week plan, I'm going to explain the 3 biggest mistakes you need to avoid so that when you do the plan, you do very well. All right, so first things first, healthy breakfasts aren't helping. What does that mean? Well, you wake up and what's the first thing you grab? Cereal, oatmeal with banana, toast and jam, or a fruit smoothie, or I eat nothing, maybe a piece of bread or a cookie, right? And I get it, you're not eating a lot, but that's not helping. Why does it matter? Because those breakfasts will flood blood sugar into your bloodstream. So because after 8 hours of fasting, your body's extra sensitive to what you feed it first. So when you give it carbs without breaks, i.e. no protein, no fat, no fiber, it panics, it overreacts, your blood sugar spikes and then drops when all that insulin comes surging in. Now what follows? Well, cravings at the office at 10 a.m. Feeling like a nap, right? Because you really are just so exhausted. Or shaky in that hangry mood that makes you, snap at your kid or kids, or more likely if you're me, your husband. And it'll make you raid that office snack drawer. Okay, so don't do that. don't do a very high carby breakfast. Breakfast needs to be protein based, okay? Mistake number 2, naked carbs. Naked carbs is one of my favorite phrases, and my clients love it because it sticks. Think of your carbs as toddlers with paint, okay? You would never leave a 3-year-old toddler alone in a room with paint because your whole wall, just like your bloodstream, will be covered in it. So if you eat carbs naked alone by itself, your blood sugar will spike as someone suffering from insulin resistance. Okay, so you're not going to take a slice of bread without pairing it with a protein, fiber, or fat first, okay? Because carbs alone, when they're by themselves, spike sugar and raise insulin and have you crash hard. So let me give you an example of 2 lunches, okay? Which do you think will spike the sugar more? Lunch A, a bowl of white rice with some chicken in a salad. Lunch B, big mixed salad, leafy greens, cucumbers, olives, solid portion of chicken, and a side of rice after with yummy sauce on it. Lunch B is going to do better. Why? Because you've eaten the fiber, the protein, and you've coated that rice with some type of like fattening sauce. So the carbs are not going to spike as high. Okay? It's just not going to happen. So the sugar is going to be much more stable. Rather than if you mix chicken and rice and you're eating it together, you're not sequencing it, you're just having it at the same time. Okay? So same ingredients, but wildly different sugar response. Okay? Example, say I go to Chipotle. Who doesn't like Chipotle? Let me tell you I achieve nutrient sequencing, so I'm able to use my hunger cues to eat when I'm hungry, stop when I'm satisfied, and I don't overeat. All right, I'm gonna tell you exactly how I do it. First, I walk in, the long line of Chipotle, which luckily moves, right? They have a system going, you know what I mean? The conveyor belt, boom, 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 boom. And the first thing I tell them is, I know the guac is extra, okay? Straight up, I don't even wait for them to ask me. Yeah, I know it's extra. All right, let's do this. Because I know that fat's gonna help me, okay? And plus it tastes delicious. Then when they're doing the rice, I'll tell them I want half the rice and I want it on the side of the bowl. So if I'm getting a burrito bowl, half the rice on the side. And then they put the toppings everywhere around. So that way I'll eat the side with my salsa, my meat, my fajitas, vegetables, and my guac all on the one side first. And then the mixed one with the rice later if I'm still hungry. I may say that you need that later, but either way, that rice is going down last. All right. And by doing that, I'm nutrient sequencing. Okay. I'm coating the lining of my gut, delaying how quickly the sugar gets absorbed. So it's the best way you can do it. All right. Now, besides balancing your blood sugar, okay, that has to happen if you have insulin resistance. I want you to make sure you're also drinking 100 ounces of water a day. I want you to focus on protein first. And we'll be talking about the movement I think is necessary. And we'll get into that in just a second. All right, but if you start with just maintaining the sugar, you're gonna have more energy, more ability to exercise, okay? Mistake number 3 is obsessing over exercise, okay? So here's the deal. They did studies and saw that those who lost weight and kept it off did about 150 minutes of aerobic activity a week and strength training at least twice a week, okay? So that's exactly what I prescribe, something that's evidence-based, seen in studies. You don't lose that much weight in the gym. You lose in the kitchen, but you keep it off with muscle, okay? And you burn glucose and glycogen stores with aerobic activity. So for someone with insulin resistance, that's the winning combo. I have a whole episode on exercise. You can check that out. All right, now, I have nothing against exercise, right? But if you're trying to burn off the cookie or punish yourself for eating, stop. That mindset is garbage. You can't outrun a bad diet. Now, what works better, especially if you have insulin resistance? I want you to walk after your meals. You use glucose as fuel while it's still in the bloodstream, like a shortcut to better insulin sensitivity. So each meal, give me 10 minutes of movement or 30 minutes after dinner, and then start incorporating strength training 2 to 4 times a week. So let's slow down for a second together and pull this all together. You are not broken. Your body isn't resisting weight loss because it hates you. It's just doing what it's supposed to do and the inputs it was given. If you're not losing weight, it's not about more willpower. It's about less insulin and about certain things you can do to mindfully eat in a way that serves you. All right. So let's get right into it. All right. I want you eating your meals in the correct order, prioritizing protein, pairing your carbs with clothes like fiber, fat, and protein, right? You're going to move smart, especially after meals. Okay. I want you to focus on your emotional well-being as well. If you try and fail, that can chip away at your belief in yourself. So if you're listening to this thinking that all sounds great, but will it work for me? I want you to understand it will, not because it's magic, because it's biology, and biology doesn't lie, okay? So now, with all that said, let's dive into the 4-week fat loss framework, okay? So here's how I tell someone who wants to lose 10 pounds by July 4th in 4 weeks, okay? Your only job this week is to stabilize your blood sugar week 1. Okay, so week 1, stabilize the blood sugar. Nothing fancy, because we need your hunger cues to level out. So what does that look like? Cutting all naked carbs. No processed carbs, by itself, no crackers, juice, bread, alone. Everything needs to wear clothes. It needs to be sequenced with protein, fat, or fiber. And if you want to go an extra mile, have a tablespoon of vinegar before breakfast or a heavy carb meal. Because if you do that, with a big glass of water about 15 minutes before you eat the meal with carbs, science shows it'll lower the sugar down. So consider that. Breakfast, focus with that protein, right? So focus maybe 30 grams of protein. Think Greek yogurt and hemp seeds, or eggs with sausage, protein shake. Doesn't matter, hit 30. If you're a male, maybe hit closer to 40, okay? Now, after meals, I want you to walk 10 minutes per meal or 30 minutes after dinner. So even 10 minutes a meal or 30 minutes after dinner, whatever works for your schedule, okay, make that happen. All right, so that's week number 1. Protein sequencing, hitting protein goals, and walking. Very simple. Week number 2, we're gonna start building the foundation. So week number 2, now that your blood sugar is not all over the place, it's time to support the systems that keep the weight off for long term. So I want you to add strength training 2 to 4 times a week right now. No gym, no problem. Air squats, push-ups on the wall, water jugs for weight, mason jars, I don't care. It's good. All right, I don't care. Jugs for weights, it doesn't matter. The goal is to build muscle that soaks up glucose and builds muscle, which helps with insulin sensitivity. And it also looks nice, right? So for those who have chronic movement issues, we've teamed up with APA Care. I'll link them here. They also, have an affiliation with our diabetes app, and they specialize in working out for those with chronic disease. So people who can't do full workouts yet, and they help people build up to that functional movement. All right. Anyway, you want to be able to build up your strength. And, for those who are already doing that, that's great. There's a gazillion workouts on YouTube for full body workouts, 2 to 4 times a week. I love the Ladder app. I follow Coach Maya. I love Tone It Up. I mean, you name it, I love it. There's so many good ones. I love to mix it up. Whatever it is, you're going to strength train 2 to 4 times a week. Next, you're going to sleep 7 hours a night. It's not a luxury, it's a requirement. Poor sleep raises cortisol and insulin levels, and both block fat loss, okay? So to do this, no screen time 2 hours before bed. So if bedtime's 10, no YouTube, no even watching this 2 hours before bed. No caffeine after 3 p.m. Next, hydration check. I want you drinking 100 ounces a day. Maybe 30 minutes before each meal, have a little over 30 ounces, something like big like this. The reason I like it 30 minutes before the meal is it doesn't dilute the gastric juices that help break down the food, which if you're on a GLP-1 agonist or a medication like that, having all that water when you eat will make you feel very bloated, give you some heartburn, you may not feel good. So I love the water being 30 minutes before. And even if you weren't on a medication like that, it's still very, very helpful. So those gastric juices really can, maximize and not have to make too much acid to break down the food, okay? Plus, this will stop false hunger. Sometimes we think we're hungry, but rather we're just thirsty, okay? Eat out max once this week, okay? Home cooked meals put you in control. Even if it's super basic, like rotisserie chicken, frozen veggies, microwave quinoa, you're winning, all right? You're winning. All right, now week 3, you're gonna dial in and personalize. You're gonna bump that protein to 100 to 120 grams a day, all right? You've got the hang of this. It's time to feed that metabolism. That's 30 to 40 grams a meal. Do not miss it. You're gonna start tracking your patterns. Are you skipping lunch? Binging at 4 p.m.? Are weekends where you go off the rails? Notice your trends, own them, fix them. And add one stress reduction habit. That can be 5 minutes of breath work in the morning, journaling before bed, going outside without your phone, because high cortisol blocks fat burning. So if you've been stressed and stuck, this is probably why. All right, calming your nervous system is really a fat loss trick. And then finally, week 4, don't restart, refine. This last week, right, only to finish the plan, I want you to cut all processed foods, okay, just for 1 week. Eat when you're hungry, right, after that water. If you're hungry, eat. And then stop when you're satisfied, not full. What does that mean? It means if you say, how do I feel? Do I feel hungry or full or nothing? Nothing satisfied. You're good. Throw everything out. Better in the trash than on your, you know what I mean? Just throw it out. And remember, you're still with this non-processed diet, you're likely going to already hit certain, goals, like 3 servings of vegetables and protein a day. Maybe you want to do servings of carbs, like fruit or grains, sequenced, like we discussed before, after the protein, vegetables, and fat. And then if you aren't hungry, don't Eat. Listen to your body. Your body will tell you if you're hungry. Because you're fueling it correctly, you're moving it correctly, your body will tell you when you want to eat and when you want to stop. Okay? So you're not starting over. You're just dialing it in this week. Ask yourself at the end of this week, how's my energy? Are my clothes looser? How are my cravings? Am I less reactive? Forget the scale for a second and look at the trends that matter. You'll notice when those go well, the scale goes well. All right? Keep what's working, drop what's not. If walking after lunch helps, keep it. If your protein shake makes you bloat, change it. Don't get bored and quit. Your body loves routine, and this week is where it settles into a groove and fat loss becomes easier. So my pro tip is revisit week 1 if life gets messy. This isn't a ladder, it's a cycle. So you can look back at any time and redo these habits the same way you did in the beginning of the month. Now at the end of 4 weeks, I usually have people saying things like, I'm not even thinking about food all day anymore, or I'm sleeping better than I have in years. I lost 10 pounds and didn't count a single calorie. And that's what happens when you stop fighting your body and start feeding it what it really wants and needs. So just to wrap it up, yes, you absolutely can lose 10 pounds in 4 weeks. But here's what I want you to remember. It's not about willpower. It's about working with your body and giving it what it needs, not raising the insulin levels too high if you have insulin resistance, okay? It doesn't matter how hard you try. Your system will fight you if you give it crap. And you don't need to eat less necessarily. You need to eat differently and listen to your body. Let it tell you what it wants, especially when you start the day with protein. Pair your carbs, walk after meals, drink water, and do those things consistently. You'll feel like your metabolism is like 20 years younger. So this isn't a short-term diet. It's a metabolic reset, okay? So once your body feels safe, the blood sugar comes down, the stress is down, the fuel is coming in. You don't have to force weight loss. It just happens. So go ahead, bookmark this episode and re-listen at the start of each week, and you'll hear something different every time because you're doing something different each week. And then comment what week you're on, and I'll be doing it with you. And if you're sick of your doctor just upping your meds or telling you to eat more salad and buying the next magical supplement, maybe from your functional, practitioner, or you're tired of the cyclical behavior where you do well for a little bit and then kind of fall off, join my diabetes reversal program. I'll teach you exactly how to fix this. Work on cravings, overeating, long-term. No guessing, no gimmicks. We have options that you can do it yourself with coaching and in states eligible, working with my practice to go through it all. You got this. One plate at a time, one walk at a time, one win at a time. I'll catch you later, Diabetes fam.